So I'll pose the question to the team here. Who is Simon Drake? Hmm?
Well, I'm going to stick my neck out and say he's a magician.
Good call. Good call.
I don't know.
He's definitely a magician.
Forward.
Definitely a magician. Simon Drake is a television magician from the UK. And Simon had a slant on his magic that was definitely more gothic for sure. Opportunity for blood and guts and demons. And, you know, I think the best line that I heard about it was David Copperfield put it pretty succinctly. He said, Simon Drake is like what I am in the United States, but from hell. Right? So he's doing very, very evil slant versions of classical magic. It's very classical magic. You'll see when we look at some of these examples here. It's all very classical stuff, but he's definitely made it into something different with his point of view, with his artistic point of view that he sort of puts on all these things and the backgrounds and the theater that he's in. This thing is from a show that's called The Secret Cabaret, and he had a secret theater in London, or that's the way they sort of present it. He had a theater in London, and he presented all these tricks that we're going to see in this theater show. But in addition to that, there's all kinds of little vignettes in between, little automatons. But all the automatons that you see in the show, they're all like evil automatons. So there's all kinds of weird stuff that's going on. But what I've pulled out here is basically all the best classical like magic that basically we would care about, right? So that we could just see this guy's point of view and just see how a guy with this point of view would handle and give a treatment to these classical pieces of magic and make them look in this way. So it's I think for us, it's very educational just to see a different artist do something completely different than probably what most of us would do with these pieces of magic. So take it away, Adam.
Yeah, you'll get a great idea of who Simon Drake is. We'll tell you more about him in a second because he is a pretty phenomenal performer. But let's just watch this first bit here because this will tell you a lot about who Simon Drake is. All right, so I got this new monitor. So let me know if the sound and stuff is working. Guys, you know how I roll sometimes. Let's see. Let me know. All right, here we go.
Sounds good. No resolution, right? I mean, he's leaving it hanging there.
No restoration necessary at all.
Yeah, we don't ever really look at this kind of thing. You know, this is like good old-fashioned box jumper magic, you know, like the big boxes.
Some of it is.
Yeah.
Some of it is not. Some of it is closer to what we got. But the box jumper stuff that he does is like, ha!
Yeah.
Like every single one of them.
That's like a perfectly straightforward presentation of the sawing in half, except you just end it, you know? And so that's the interesting twist on it. I thought it was fascinating.
It's fascinating, but you know, if you look at it, if that was just an isolated piece by itself, he just murdered that woman, right?
Yeah, that is literally what just happened. Yeah.
You actually do not actually need any gaffs to do that effect
right.
as done just then.
No method necessary.
And I mean, like, I think we talked about this before. This is like pretty much the Ricciardi take on it, right? Because he does the buzzsaw illusion. He cuts them with blood and guts everywhere, and they leave her that way through intermission.
Simon Drake is definitely influenced by Ricciardi.
I would think so. Yeah. I would think so.
Yeah. And when you look at Simon's sort of performing career, you see that, you know, he had a big theater background, which is apparent when you watch Simon's work. But you know what's fascinating about Simon is that he went on to not just do magic and have a very prolific career in that, but he went on to be a consultant for so many projects in the UK. And I just pulled up a list of some of the stars that he worked with along the way: Elton John, Phil Collins, David Gilmour, Meatloaf, Steve Miller's Abracadabra. I don't even know what that is. George Harrison, Julian Lennon, Kate Bush, Peter Gabriel, Katy Perry. So these people that he's all worked with or he's worked as a consultant on. And
nobody big.
And think about the arena rock shows and, you know, the big concerts, that were happening in the 80s. A lot of them had magic elements, even into the 2000s. There were a lot of magic elements that a lot of these pop stars use, you know.
Yeah.
Alice Cooper's famous for that stuff, right? He's got illusions all throughout the whole show. So there's, you know, a guy like Simon Drake, if he finds the right star, he's got consulting money paying for his year, right? It's pretty good.
Well, it is Halloween, and we wanted to bring you somebody fresh that you had maybe not ever seen before. And we were really lucky because Alex was able to tie it into like this Halloween timed theme. And it's funny because talking about, you know, Halloween and like this sort of how everybody loves the gorier type arts around Halloween. You know, they call it the spooky season. I think I heard that a million times. You know, like they did a production of Dr. Faustus in South London, and he was a magic consultant on that stage presentation as well. So, you know, you're talking about a guy who's had his, you know, hands in every performing art there is, but magic has always been his, you know, first love that he's come back to. So you said earlier about the box jumper stuff, right? So this is really an example of the opposite of that because, you know, he is a stage performer and whatnot, but this is not, you know, this is not a big time illusion. This is something that is gonna, you know, seem familiar, but not familiar at the same time. So let's check.
And more intimate.
What did you want to say? Something else?
I said, and just a little bit more intimate.
Yes.
Such a strong illusion, right? Looks so good. So here, take the cloth. He's all, no, not yet. I got to do this again.
It wasn't even red. It wasn't even red. My arm was always red when I did that trick.
He's probably doing it a lot more. His arm got used to doing it. He's probably doing it a few times a week, you know, or a few times a night. Yeah, it's a good trick, man. It's a strong illusion.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's just the whole take on it is completely different.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's funny how he it's not too hard to like to know where to stop with that trick, and Simon's like, I'm gonna take it just a little bit further, like, you know.
Yeah,
I think it is reminiscent of you know, I kind of see maybe where Chris Angel got a little of his influence. I didn't realize it until now.
Certainly.
Or Dan Sperry, like most of them looking at that, like, you know, it came from somewhere, and I think it probably came from here.
Well, if you look at how Simon sort of carries himself in more of these, like the first one, he was sort of dressed like in a tuxedo, like a classical magician. This one, he was sort of more looked like a rock star, like a pop star of the day, right? Because this is late 80s. This is like 88 or so, I think, when this was all shot. So there seems to be two characters within this whole thing, where he's got this rock star and he's got the more classical magician, and they seem to be aspects of himself that are at war with each other throughout this whole thing. But you'll see that he's more like a pop star, more like what Chris Angel's trying to be throughout this whole thing. He's got the, you know, the unshaven look, and he's wearing like the leather and all that stuff. You'll see it's you know, definitely an influence there.
Now, what about the other side, though? Because I know that there's also, then you mentioned the classical, right? The classical side of Simon Drake, which I think we have a clip coming up next that's very much like that, right?
But it's still dark. It's still dark. I mean, it's classical, but it's like right before he becomes this leather-clad guy. Like, so he's like right there in the dark realm of dealing with all these dark issues and dark, you know, presentations. But then it's almost like he flips and just becomes totally evil and becomes this other guy. It's interesting. It's an interesting little through line that's going through.
It's duality. It's duality.
Is there a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing going on?
Kinda, yeah. That's a good observation. Yeah, totally. They don't actually have like I haven't seen any physical change yet, but yeah, definitely. All
right,
and the next one, I'll have something that sort of plays with that a little bit more. You'll see, it's really good.
So don't let the tuxedo fool you here.
That's right.
Okay, all right, let's check it out. She doesn't like it.
Guy's a smoker.
So that's one of those little close-up vignettes, right? He's got these little pieces that are like 30 seconds to a minute long, sometimes maybe 2 minutes long, and they're like classical pieces of magic that sort of are related to something that was right before it or coming next. And it's interesting because all these little tiny close-up pieces without his face, they sort of tie the whole show together. Really neat, really a neat concept, a neat idea, especially for the late 80s. You know, that was a lot of magic in a show for the late 80s.
So what we're watching was a television show, right?
That's correct. That's correct. He had a TV special called The Secret Cabaret, and I think now he basically is using that as that is a commercial, right? That DVD is basically a commercial that he can give to corporations that want to hire someone for, you know, a holiday party. He has a mansion. He has it set up for events, and it's in an undisclosed location. You only get it if you hire him and hire his crew. And you go to this old mansion, and it's got all these beautiful props that are all over the place, embedded in the walls. There's fortune tellers, there's close-up magicians, right? It's like an evening out with this sort of evil slanted magic, and it's you know, unforgettable experience that you tell your grandchildren about. Pretty smart. He seems like he's making a pretty good living, just, you know, basically chasing his bliss and doing what he loves. So I admire that. That's pretty great.
I like what you said too about those little interludes. Like he's like, I appreciate the theatricality of it. I appreciate the fact that he's not just presenting magic. He's thinking about themes. He's thinking about his character. He's thinking about how to tie these things together, even if they're loose ties. Like he's still thinking about that stuff. And the fact that he was thinking, I mean, think about this is when Copperfield was dominating the television waves here in the United States with his very clean image. You know, we had the anti-Copperfield dominating the airwaves over in the UK.
It's almost like the Rolling Stones to the Beatles, right? It's pretty funny. I hadn't thought about that till just this moment when you said that. It's pretty funny.
Mean, if you just, and that's really true, isn't it? Rolling Stones to the Beatles. But it just strikes me, it's like Ricciardi before this was doing this kind of gore magic, kind of. Not everything he did, but he had certain pieces like that. But previous to that, I don't think I think that might be the initiating point of that kind of magic.
Well, weren't they originally, when they did the original Sawing a Lady in Half, wasn't that like, that was the gore thing before Ricciardi? Like they would cut a lady in half and the woman would be dead on stage, and they'd let the audience come up and like walk around her and see that she was dead, and then they would restore her at the end.
I don't know. I'm going to look into that. I've got Illustrated History of Magic. I bet you that it'll be in there.
Because I remember that being a whole thing. Like that was a whole segment in magic history, like maybe in the 30s or something, in theater shows that were like dueling at, you know, opposing theaters. They would both be doing, you know, the cutting a lady in half. And the way to make people come see your cutting a lady in half is that it's real. We really kill this woman.
Come on down, buy a ticket. We're gonna kill her.
Come down and see it. You'll get to get up close and see the dead woman on stage. You know, it was like there was a whole selling point to the thing.
There's something definitely more like when you watch this kind of stage stuff, there's something to this that does ring back to the 1800s where you know you didn't really know what was real and what wasn't. I mean, you had to go to the theater and watch the magician to find out. And I'm sure
almost like it was real magic.
Yeah, like when you read the Houdini biography and the biographies of like Robert Houdin and stuff like that, like you really get the sense that they were not just protecting secrets, but they were protecting the big secret, which was, is magic real? Is it connected to spiritualism? Is it connected to the devil? And all those, you know, things. And that was the big secret, really, was like, you know, is this stuff really happening? And the audiences didn't know. It really didn't, you know. Of course, you had some people that knew. But
but that's, you know, it's like Abe Lincoln said, right? You can't fool all the people all the time. But I think that that's sort of the job of the magician, is to be almost, you know, that person that's blurring the lines all the time. And the ones that are real good at it seem like they're almost like ambassadors for the mysterious, right? They're here to bring it to you, and you don't know what's real, what's fake, and that line is blurred the whole time. And I think that's when the magic is the best, really.
Hey, Steve, I wonder what it would have been like to be alive in Houdini's day or Houdin's day, and to go into that theater and watch and see what, because, you know, those shows would be like 3 or 4 hours long. You know, so wouldn't you love to be able to go back in time and sit in and see like what that atmosphere was like?
I think I've talked about that, you know, before. It's like, if I could go back in time, I'd want to see stuff like that. I'd want to go to a Houdini bridge jump.
Yeah.
You know, because like we can imagine what that's like, But you imagine what it's like in the middle of winter, right? And you're freezing, and they're putting him in the box and throwing him in the river. Like, it's a whole visceral experience to actually.
And folks at that time had a longer attention span. Like us,
Yeah.
if we went back in time with the minds that we've cultivated with this time,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we'd be able to stand there that long. I think we
Wow.
would just get bored and walk away. You know, we wouldn't be able to handle it.
Not to switch off Drake, but
Yeah.
Houdini would do the milk can escape. He would escape from the milk can and sit on top of it and wait for 45 minutes. You know what I mean? Just wait. And the music plays and the timer's gone, right? You could never do that.
No.
Yeah, Simon
People
Drake has a
would
version
leave.
of the milk can. I didn't bring it up. We can if you like, but he did a version of the milk can, and it's a similar thing, but it's television. It's the modern era. He does that, but it's like that long, right?
Yeah.
Like he's sitting there for maybe 30 seconds after it's over, like, oh no, is he dead? And then they pull the curtain back. You go, oh, he's there. No, it's all okay.
All right, so this next thing is called surprise. Should we put the warning out there for?
Nah.
All right.
Just brace yourself.
Just brace
Great.
it.
So, all right.
It's called surprise.
Yeah, there's a surprise coming. I guess that's all you need to know.
I love that he's standing on the side there like, I wonder what's for dinner.
You know what I really love about that is that if you watched any other stage performer do that, the magician would have been in front of the box doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know, and at least he has the sense, like he has the actual theatrical sense to just step aside and be still and let the most interesting thing be the shadow, because it is pretty interesting. I mean, how that illusion works.
Totally.
That's a really interesting thing right there, because if you think about it, he's manifesting something and not really taking credit for it. You know,
and that music points right to that, right? Like that music sounds like really evil and ominous, and it's like pointing to that something is happening, and he's just sort of opening the door for it.
Yeah,
I think you're
exactly.
dead
Yeah,
on with
that's
it.
a good way to put it. He's
It's great.
manifesting it.
So cool.
That was a really cool presentation of that. I've seen that trick a ton.
Right. And it's never interesting. Like that one you'll remember, right? The other ones you go, oh, right, they do something interesting with the shadows. And you're like, for me, it's like I'm as interested in it because the principle's interesting as the trick. And that shouldn't be the way it is. It should be like, whoa, that affected me as a piece of art, you know?
This brought back to me as a kid in the great state of New Jersey, greatest state in the nation. There was a magician. I can't think of his name, you know? Darn it, I wish I could. But every Halloween for the month of October, he would host a month-long series of shows at a local community theater. You know, and you know, he had a big illusion show and everything was tricked out like this type of thing, you know? And it was really a big deal. And I'm wondering if it isn't a knockoff of this. It's quite possibly could be.
Yeah. Well, you see something like that happen, and I know it affected me when I'm watching this.
I mean,
show.
this is
It can inspire you. It can inspire you if you have a bunch of tricks.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
You know, also like, have we done Darren Brown? We haven't done Darren Brown yet.
No, because there's so much good stuff. I don't know what to pick because there's so much. There's so much.
I mean, you can sit with Darren. We can sit with one episode of Darren stuff and just talk about it for weeks.
Or we could just talk about it for the rest of the year, right? And just go through stuff. I mean, there's so much.
Yeah, there is. But there's also an aspect to this that I think Darren borrows heavily from too. Like, it's just like Darren understands the theatrical presentations. He really understands it. I mean, there's something that's really genius about Darren Brown, you know, that no one quite ever could figure out why he is so good. I mean, you kind of sit in awe of the guy, right? Because he's
what it is. He knows when to get out of the way, right?
Yeah.
He knows when the effect is coming, and he knows when to shut up and stop being the guy presenting stuff. It's not so much about his ego that he has to be in the spotlight going, see what I did? He's happy to get out of the way and let the experience or the thing manifest and become what it's going to become, so that everyone can experience mystery and real magic, because that's the goal. It's not about you as the performer. It's about them. It's about what happens when it's over, right? What's the story that they're telling because of that moment that was manifest, right? Because of all of us working together to make this thing happen. That's, he's very skillful. He knows how to get out of the way.
Richie wanted to know, were they saying Kylo Ren in that last song? Just looking at some of these chats. Yeah, you're right, Alf. It was really good. Stephen Phillips says he summoned a demon. Yeah, that's in essence, I think, exactly. Craig says, bizarrely reminded me of Bowie. Yes, you're right. You're right. I wonder. Maybe he was a big Bowie fan there. It's okay to cross genres.
He's right in the strike zone. He's right in that age where Bowie would have affected him. I'm sure he did.
Yeah. For sure.
Alf votes for a DB week. That's not David Blaine. That is going to be a Darren Brown week. I vote for Darren Brown week too. I think
I have to do like a Darren Brown month or something.
I know, it's so much. William LaFay wants to know, where can I go to understand the principle of these type tricks? Well, good question. So what you're talking about is a giant genre of magic, which, if you're a beginner in magic or you're only doing close-up, we're talking about mainly big stage illusions and how they work. And a lot of that can be found in very simple, a couple of very simple books. In fact, I believe Tarbell even touches on
some of it.
Yeah,
some of it. Yeah. Even Mark Wilson touches on some of the principles.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really great book. This is Big Book of Magic by Patrick Page.
Are those even available anymore?
No, this is good. It's a tough find, I would imagine.
Do you remember that book?
I've had this book for a lifetime, but there's some great illusions, some entry level, like the Dollhouse, a Vanishing Car.
Do you remember that book though that had the blueprints and it was 2 volumes? One was like all the pictures of how the thing looked. No, not the Osborne one. It's it's before that. It's like from the late 70s, early 80s. One's a big giant book. It's a full color book, and then there's the plans, the blueprints that go with it. And it's, if you go and look, if you go find a used book dealer and you ask about illusion plans, you'll find your way into that, but you'll see that it's a big world and you're going to pay for these secrets because you're basically buying plans from a person that invented a secret with the hopes that someone's going to build the thing. So plans aren't cheap. You might find more luck buying books where it's a collection of illusions if you're just trying to understand principles.
I mean, I'm fascinated
That's
by
it.
it.
The Great Illusions of Magic. That's it.
Yeah.
Good work, Stephen.
I had a small illusion show for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it's not that great. You know, it's a lot of humping furniture.
Sure.
You know.
Yep. You need a truck. You need a trailer. Scott
trailer.
Alexander, he's been on the show. He's been on
Yeah.
CC a few times, and he's told us about it. It's a lot. You're
lot of
basically
work.
like a traveling rock band, right? But without the band, it's you and a couple of stagehands, and you're moving a lot of gear on and off the stage.
And I've assisted big illusion acts like this.
Right.
You know,
I'm gonna go find this book. I think you need to see. Hey, just stretch for a minute, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I can remember getting there.
Do you remember who wrote those, Stephen? Do you know who wrote the Great Illusions of Magic? Do you know what the author's name on those are? Because those books, those were the best ones I had seen. Because I'm peripherally interested in illusions. In that, I think that some of those principles can cross over and be great for close-up magic. Byron G. Wells, that's the one. Yeah, those books are cool. I remember spending time with them. I had a friend that had that set of books, and I remember spending like a month. He let me borrow them and just going through them and just sort of absorbing principles, just understanding how those things worked, and the sight lines and the illusions of why those actual giant things with wheels on them actually do what they do. It's a fascinating ride, but unfortunately, those books aren't available anymore, so you'll have to hunt them down. But William, if you're looking for it, that's going to be the best answer, is to find some of those illusion books, and then watch a lot of illusions. Watch a lot of David Copperfield, and watch a lot of Doug Henning, because that's sort of the predecessor to David Copperfield. You can see a lot of those principles in action with clunkier apparatus, and then you see a guy like David Copperfield has really slimline and sleek apparatus using those same principles. You'll get the gist of what's happening with a lot of these things, but just watch a bunch of them, and you'll start to.
So interesting. That was the time right when I grew up. It was Doug Henning and David Copperfield dueling television specials. Like first there would be a Henning and then a Copperfield. Like 6 months later, it was like and that was really, like, as a kid growing up, that was what we were really into. And I think this is a very fascinating area of magic that, interestingly enough, I believe has really been eclipsed by, more of a stand-up type of magic.
Well, it's going to come back.
Now.
It'll come back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It'll come back.
Everything's cyclical.
Everything comes back.
I couldn't find the book, but there's this really great book by maybe Gary Darwin, maybe.
Yeah. That's a great book too. There you go.
And it basically is just all about the table, right? So it's like if you want to have an illusion show and only carry around one prop. And so he talks about all the various ways you can use it. It's pretty genius. I think it's Gary Darwin. I'll have to look it up. But it's one of my favorite books on illusions, because it's like you could build all the stuff in your garage, really, from cardboard, and you'd need some wood. But basically, you could make a whole. It'd be a little bit low budget, but
Yeah, but a little bit of paint, you get some nice tape. You could probably dress those things up pretty nice, that if you weren't within 5 feet of them, you wouldn't know.
Get some good tape.
Yeah, get
like,
some good gaffer tape.
Eddie Van
Gaffer
Halen.
tape you can rule the world with gaffer tape.
You could fix anything.
So he doesn't
roll on hand all the time.
So back to Simon Drake for a second. So he doesn't just always rely on, and this is what's so great about him, just like Copperfield, like Copperfield would take these moments where he'd come and do a great coin trick or a great card trick. And Simon Drake has the same thing. Like he wants to keep it in his genre, but he still isn't afraid to sit down and have these really nice like moments with the audience, as we've seen. So let's watch another one. This is actually probably my favorite. Let's check it out. It's pretty dang cool.
great image, huh?
I'm pretty sure this is the Steinmeier method too.
It's got to be the safest method that there is, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think as long as you keep your teeth closed, yeah. But yeah, the reason I love it is because you never see the Steinmeier method like that. I remember watching Jim Steinmeier lecture in the late '80s, like at Abbott's Magic Get Together, where he did this whole routine and taught it in his lecture, and so genius. Like that method is so genius.
I'm pretty sure it's in that beautiful book that he sold us at the summit too. That black book, the Conjuring anthology that everybody got. I'm pretty sure it's in there too. It's great. It's so cool, so deceptive, and it's got all the things you want from it, right? That classic pulling it out of the mouth with the needles falling. So good, man. It's so tough.
Yeah, the the moment that just so fools you in that though is that you see exactly, and that was not camera tricks. I mean, that's exactly how it would look, right? He puts the needles in the glass, he pours some wine in there, he drinks it, and you have to ask yourself, where did those needles go?
Right, that's the real trick, right?
Yeah. So it's pretty dang sneaky and good. I think it's really good. Yeah, you're right, Alf. You're exactly right. Okay, well, what'd you guys think about that? Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty great.
Yeah, pretty great. All right, so more Simon Drake. We're going to look at a little. I guess we're going to flip back to the other side now. That I love that needle thing so much, but this is a weird one, and I do also love they're so short. Alex, don't you love how they're all 2 minutes?
Totally.
Yeah.
And we're in the home stretch here.
Yeah, we are. All right, here we go. So weird. He's just trying to do his card manipulations and all
Totally.
Haven't you always wanted when you see this card?
Wait, you'll have to say that again. I didn't hear you. What? You're on mute, Steve. Sorry.
Sorry, man. I said, haven't you always dreamed of your minions come running to watch your card manipulation?
Yeah.
It felt like they were done with this card manipulations, though. They're throwing
I noticed that now. Yeah, they're like, shove this guy in a box.
Enough with the card tricks.
Throw the card in the king.
That's a great Halloween trick.
I knew that one was just ripe for the runaround, you know?
I don't even know what to say about that one at all.
Hey, Adam, that last one is just a little laugh that they use to finish the show off. It's only like 20 seconds long. It's nothing to it, but it's totally worth just throwing in there right after this.
Okay. Okay. So we have seen that this idea of the transposition, right? The magician gets in trouble on stage, locked in some type of apparatus, vanishes, and instantly reappears somewhere else. We saw Copperfield do it with a motorcycle. Brilliantly done, hoisted up in the air, disappears on the motorcycle, appears in the audience behind you on a motorcycle. So, around the world, this has been tried and done in various ways. And I've never seen it quite done that way, I must admit.
There was one that's close to it. Remember the one that Doug Henning did where he's the hangman? Or he gets hanged, they put him up on the thing, they put the noose around his neck, and then he's the guy pulling the lever. It's very similar to that. And I think that's like a classic illusion, right? It's sort of just a twist on that premise.
There's
fictional play, right?
There's a bunch of those with what they call the runaround. Yeah. You got to run around. But I remember going to see Copperfield at the Fox Theater here in like maybe 99, 90, maybe 2000. And there was a box on top of the chair right next to me, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that's all about. Chair must be broken. Meanwhile, I'm supposed to be in the theater, right? And I noticed the glow tape all around it. I should know that's so someone can stand on it, right?
So someone can see in the dark, right?
And then all of a sudden, it's like the thing's going on stage. They have all your attention there. Like literally, Copperfield ends up standing on the thing right next to me, and I didn't.
Did he
totally
say?
Shh. Yeah.
He didn't look at you.
Don't tell anyone.
It was amazing, and the fans came on too, just in case you're aware.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Newell says things that go bump in the night. Yeah, that's a great. Yep, that's it.
Classic Henning right there.